Okay, so this is our final, I would say, about half an hour to have a more informal discussion. And well, of course, two of the panel members haven't had a chance to say anything up to this stage, so I think we might start with them. First of all, incredibly important, we've first heard one fantastic perspective from a patient who appreciates what we've achieved, but also reminds us that there's still a long way to go, and that's a really important message. And Lisa, perhaps we'll start with you.
Okay. So thank you for that, Tony. But I think, we also have to, there's always this discussion about, of course we're very grateful that, we have treatments that keep us alive, but we have so many other challenges. And sometimes, I'm a patient. I've been also on medication for a long time. Happy to be a mom and be able to walk my kids to school and all of that. But the flip side of it is, when we talk about cure, I think it's bananas to talk about a cure when we can't even get medication to most people in the world, and people are still dying, as we've heard. So I think, from my perspective, the challenges that our community is facing, access, global equality, we heard that before, but I think also, we also have quality of life issues. I mean, Joni mentioned that she's here today, but I know that there's some significant challenges that we face in managing our lives. We need to address those. We need to get more patients to TFR. We've also heard that. And let's figure out resistance as well. And then, when we talk about a cure, let's talk about what's the meaning of cure. I'm actually surprised that nobody brought this up. What's the perception of cure? So, I might think that maybe a cure is that I don't have one leukemia cell in my body, but someone else might actually think that a cure is I don't have to go to the doctor anymore for a checkup, or maybe I only see my doctor every year instead of every 3 months. And also the flip side of that is what's the perception from a healthcare provider perspective? What do you think a cure is? Maybe it's not the same thing what I think a cure is. So I think that, we've had a really fruitful discussion today, but there's still so much more that we can do and talk about from a patient perspective.
Thanks, Lisa. It's a great start. Delphine, do you want to give your perspective on the discussion today, or your own feeling about where we need to be over the next 5 to 10 years to move towards cure, and what you think is our major priority?
Well, there are many challenges, and they are very different. Of course, the cure, and also so it goes from the full spectrum to transformation to the cure. But I don't think that they should be opposed. I mean, we have to go on working on all aspects. And when you say you feel a little bit sad that you have the treatment, you're doing well, or maybe you're going to be cured, but some other people in the world don't have access. But that should not be opposed. I mean, because I think that the progress that we can make can spread then in all countries, and so we shouldn't feel ashamed that we go on making very sophisticated research, because I think this can spread then all over the world, and we should not oppose all aspects.
Yeah. I think that's an important point. I mean, we know we need to get more drug, we need to get more PCR testing into many, many countries, but that's a problem that we'll never solve completely. There'll always be places like North Korea that will never get a TKI. I mean, that's the reality. We need to keep focusing on it, but it doesn't mean we should completely ignore the plight of patients in the developed world where they're looking for a cure, and we can't stop those efforts while we wait for every patient in the world to get TKI. So there needs to be a balance there, and it's a challenge that the iCMLf have always faced, and we're trying to do both as much as we can. Jorge, you want to say?
You mentioned it already, but I was going to say, well, that's precisely why we want to do what we do in the International CML Foundation, because we are looking on the one end to the HARMONY project to look and understand all these genomics and all of that. You need to lead the way with all of that. But we're also looking at how do we extend these to all those patients, all those parts of the world that don't have the access, the education, the monitoring, all these deficiencies. So obviously the major gap that we have there is the funding. That's why funding these initiatives becomes so critical, and because funding both ends of them are very important. The ones that develop the knowledge and the ones that bring that knowledge to everybody that needs it.
Yep. Okay, open to questions or comments from the broader audience on this question. This is your chance to have your say. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, and I just want to appreciate everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of patients from low-income countries. I'm speaking on behalf of physicians like me who practice in the low-income country before coming to the developed world, who are seeing patients dying because they could not even get access to the drug or the test. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone in the room. You've done marvelously well. And as I was discussing with Prof. Cortes, we still have a long way to go, but that doesn't mean we should not appreciate the small steps. Each day we take the step, we need to appreciate it, just like life. Do we look at the cup half empty or half full? So we need to be careful how we have challenges, but then let's celebrate this small effort. And why am I saying that? You mentioned global harmonization and collaboration. How are we reaching out to the low-income countries? Because the patient, I bet you, 60% of these patients you are looking for will be in the low-income countries. That's the way it is with cancer, whether it's solid, whether it's hematology, because I do both. How are we reaching out to the physicians? I was telling Prof that I had a very good teacher when I was in medical school, and out of 100 of us, 20 of us are hematologists today from the same class because of one single teacher. So that says a lot about the teaching there. But then you are taught, but you don't have the resources. So we need to do more, reaching out to them. Yes, there's no money, but we can do education, we can reach out, we can partner with Max Foundation. They already have the leg print. I'm just thinking, let's think outside the box and see what else we can do. Thank you very much.
We've certainly been working very closely with the Max Foundation. I mean, that's a really important collaborator for us because they have the amazing contacts right around the world, and that's one thing we've always focused on. And I think we had a really great program with our preceptorship program where we brought doctors from right around the world in for periods of 3 or 4 weeks into Centres of Excellence, and that was a wonderful program. I think over 200 preceptors came through that program. It stopped when COVID started. We haven't restarted it because it's a funding challenge. It's a huge funding challenge. We'd love someone to step up and support it. I think it's one of the most effective ways to disseminate good practice. Those people that have done that have gone back and have spread that education towards all their colleagues, as you were suggesting. They've maintained that relationship with the primary site, so I think it's a fantastic program. What we lack at the moment is the funding. Any further thoughts about that? Or, I mean, it's... Okay, other comments?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
It's good to be back in person after a long break. I think, first of all, I'd also want to echo our appreciation. Working in a low-resource environment, a lot has been done through organizations such as iCMLf, and I think we're just talking about the preceptorship, and I still have a good friendship with my mentor.
Right.
And I think it's been probably almost 10 years. Yeah. So it's a fantastic program, and I hope that you get funding for it so that we can continue. The way forward, I believe in diagnostics, and I believe it will take time before we can get it to most centers, but I think we shouldn't lose sight of that fact. The other thing is the collaboration that my colleague talked about. I think it's about time that we in the low-resource countries also have the privilege of having clinical trials, because I believe that there are a lot of unanswered questions and very important things that can come out. I know when it comes to clinical trials, it's about infrastructure and whether we'll be able to do everything but I think the confidence has come. There are lots of clinical trials in the sickle cell space, at least in my center. So I would plead that we want to get some clinical trials, even if it's a patient or two, help us to build up capacity, because I believe there's a whole lot of things that we do not know because we do not have that access. And of course, our patients will also benefit from it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comment. And I think, you know, you're a great example of someone who did benefit and benefited your many people in your country because of your collaboration with Mike and his team. So that's wonderful to hear. Are there any, we could probably wrap it up. Are there any final comments anyone would like to make? Further thoughts, final suggestions? Anybody else? If not, I'd like to thank my fellow speakers and panelists for their contribution. I'd like to thank all of the audience that have stuck with it for 3 hours. I think it's been a very important session for the iCMLf, and we all need to go away and continue to work on improving outcomes for our CML patients right around the world. Thank you very much for your attention.